The Skinwalker Files. What the government hid from us. There are places in America you'll never find on a map. Remote, silent zones where the land watches you back. In one such place, tucked in the arid desolation of northern Utah, lies a truth the government never meant to reveal. This isn't fiction. These are the Skinwalker Files, classified accounts they buried deep until now. I never believed in monsters. I worked in data recovery for a subcontractor that specialized in old, encrypted government archives. Most of it was mundane, declassified Cold War nonsense, surveillance from outdated satellites, black and white footage of missile tests. But then I was assigned to Batch 374, a corrupted digital archive with a simple heading. DOSB Skinwalker Assets /Field Notes 1997 to 2003. The first thing that struck me? It wasn't just redacted. Entire portions were overwritten with static, replaced with weird glyphs that didn't match any known encryption. My curiosity got the better of me. Using proprietary software and some scripts of my own, I dug deeper. And that's when the first file decrypted. It was labeled Audio Log Agent K, read July 16, 1998. The transcript started benignly enough, coordinates, field temperature, wind speeds. But then I read the final line, and it made my blood run cold. Subject seen again near eastern fence perimeter. Human shape, but inverted legs. Eyes glowed despite daylight. Audio interference began instantly. Requesting extraction. This is not Navajo legend. It's real. That's when I knew this wasn't some cryptid fan fiction. This was an actual agent in the field, logging a direct encounter with what locals call the Skinwalker, a shapeshifter for native lore said to wear the skins of men and beasts alike. A thing of legend. Or so I thought. I kept digging. The descent begins. The next file was worse. It was an untagged video entry with no metadata. I played it at 3 a.m. in my apartment, headphones on, lights off. Grainy night vision footage filled the screen. I recognized the terrain from satellite overlays. Brushy plains leading to a barbed wire enclosure, standard military grade. 2 men in full tactical gear stood just outside the fence. One held a Geiger counter. The other scanned with infrared. The static started faintly, a low buzz like a fly near the ear. Then the Geiger counter went haywire. Its clicking became a violent scream. The man holding it shouted something unintelligible and dropped the device. That's when they saw it. A figure on all fours at the far edge of the fence. It moved unnaturally, jerking like frames missing from a film. It crawled closer, its limbs too long, neck too thin. But what truly paralyzed me wasn't its shape. It was the face. Human, but stretched. Like someone had grabbed both ends and pulled. The mouth hung slightly open, revealing hundreds of pin-like teeth. Its eyes didn't blink. They glowed, even in infrared. The camera fizzed with static again. Then, the video cut. I sat frozen for a full minute. Then I noticed something that hadn't registered before. The timestamp on the video? It was only 3 months old. This wasn't some artifact from the late 90s. Someone had mislabeled this file. Or someone didn't want anyone to know these things were still being seen. A visitor in the dark. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking I heard whispering outside my apartment window. I lived on the 7th floor. At 3:33 a.m., I received an anonymous email with no subject. The body read, "You weren't meant to see this. Stop digging." Attached was a single JPEG image. I clicked it open. It was a blurred satellite image of a compound in Utah, with one section highlighted in red. Beneath it was a caption, Area 6D, known portal zone. Perimeter breaches increasing. Portal? Breach? Suddenly, everything came crashing into place. The bizarre energy readings. The disappearing animals reported in the notes. The agents complaining of hallucinations, of hearing their dead relatives speak from the canyons. They weren't just tracking skinwalkers. They were documenting what came with them. The government's secret. I tried to contact a former associate of mine, someone who used to work deep in the intelligence community, but their phone was disconnected. Then, out of pure desperation, I called my uncle, a retired Navajo ranger who had spent decades patrolling remote tribal lands in Utah and Arizona. I didn't expect him to answer, let alone talk. But he did. And when I told him what I found, he went dead silent. Then, he whispered, "The government took what they didn't understand and tried to control it. But some doors, once open, don't close. That place, that ranch, was sacred, and they violated it." He told me stories of glowing orbs in the sky, of cattle mutilated with surgical precision, of wolves that didn't die, even after being shot point blank, of men driven mad from hearing their own names whispered from empty air. "Don't go near that place," he said. "They marked it off for a reason, and they still watch it, not to protect us, but to protect themselves." Before I could ask more, he hung up. I never heard from him again. The final file. The last file I accessed wasn't a report. It was a letter, never sent, labeled, "To whom it may concern, read if I disappear." It was written by Agent K. Read, the same man from the 1998 audio log. And his final words would haunt me forever. "We thought we were dealing with one creature. But the truth is the land itself is alive, and it's angry. The Skinwalker is not alone. It's a scout, a sentinel. Something is coming through. Not one of them. All of them. They call it the crossing. We open the door. We can't shut it. I'm sorry." I shut my laptop, heart racing, hands clammy. Suddenly, my power flickered. The room went dark for a split second. When the lights returned, my laptop was off. Not just off, fried. The files were gone. Every last one. Only one folder remained on my desktop. The files never existed. Inside it, a single audio file. I played it. It was my voice, recorded just minutes ago, saying nothing, just breathing and whispering. "You shouldn't have looked." After uncovering terrifying government files linked to the Skinwalker Ranch, I thought it was over, that the documents were deleted and the danger gone. I was wrong. The files may have vanished, but they didn't. And now, something is watching me, breathing behind my walls. The more I dig, the more I realize what the government tried to hide, never wanted to stay hidden. I left the laptop untouched for days. I couldn't bring myself to open it again, not after hearing my own whisper recorded, my voice repeating words I had no memory of saying. My apartment grew colder, the shadows longer, as if something had shifted in my space. Lights flickered when I passed. Sometimes the TV turned on by itself, always showing static, and just barely, underneath the white noise, I could hear what sounded like my name. I told myself it was paranoia, sleep deprivation, a trick of the mind. But then the nightmare started. Always the same. A red desert under a black sky, stars hanging unnaturally still. A man, no, a thing, staring at me from the other side of a wire fence. His face peeled back slowly, revealing not bone or muscle, but shifting shadows and glowing eyes inside. Each night, I woke with blood in my mouth, biting down in my sleep. They found me. The knock came at 4:17 a.m. 3 soft raps, then silence. I waited. No one knocked again. But when I looked through the peephole, I saw a man in a black windbreaker standing completely still, head tilted upward like he was sniffing the air. I didn't open the door. When I checked again a few minutes later, he was gone. On the floor beneath my door was a small envelope, sealed with red wax. No writing on the outside. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note. The files never disappear. They just go deeper. Play it somewhere safe. The handwriting was shaky, rushed. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because some part of me needed to know how deep the rabbit hole went. I packed my things and left the city. I drove for hours until I found a roadside motel near Vernal, Utah, the nearest town to the infamous ranch from the files. Room 11. Door stuck a bit. Faint smell of mildew, but safe enough. I plugged the drive-in. Only one file. Buried channels / do not stream. It was grainy security footage, time-stamped 1999. A man in a hazmat suit was standing over a hole in the ground, somewhere in the middle of the desert. His voice echoed faintly through the wind. Conducting excavation 14. Motion sensors triggered beneath zone 3 again. Animal bones, no. Wait, this looks humanoid. He reached into the dirt. Then the ground buckled. He screamed. Something long, pale, slick like wet clay, shot out and wrapped around his arm. He thrashed, trying to break free, but it dragged him under in seconds. The ground closed like water sealing after a stone. The screen glitched. Cut to black. Then text scrolled slowly across the screen. They're not creatures. They're memories. The land remembers. And it feeds on what we leave behind. The researcher who broke. The next part of the drive was a document dump. Scans of medical records, psychiatric evaluations, and handwritten journals from someone listed as Dr. Meredith Shaw, a neuropsychiatrist embedded at the research site. She had worked there from 1997 to 2000. Her notes started clinical, detached. She observed erratic behavior in agents exposed to high EM fields around the property. Auditory hallucinations, dissociation, nosebleeds, rage episodes. But in 1999, her tone shifted. We thought the phenomena were localized, but it's inside us. We've been infected, psychically tethered to something ancient. My dreams, they're not mine anymore. I dream of being eaten, of being used. Another entry. I tried to resign. They won't let me. Said I'm too far in. I think that means something else. I saw my mother in the hallway last night. She's been dead for 12 years. The final entry simply read, I've started to see the holes. In reality, small, pulsing like gills. Something is breathing through them. She disappeared 6 days later. Her last known GPS ping was near a ravine east of the ranch. The government marked it as unexplained disappearance. But someone had scratched something on the metal fencing nearby. We opened the wrong door. Waking nightmares. That night, in the motel, I woke up gasping. The TV was on, flickering static again. Except this time, it was showing footage of my apartment. My desk. My bed. Footage from before I left. Then the image shifted. It showed me asleep in the very motel room I was in now. Only I wasn't alone. Something stood by the bed, unmoving. A silhouette, its skin draped and torn, like it had stitched itself together wrong. Then, suddenly, it turned and looked at the camera. I screamed. The TV shut off by itself. My breath fogged in the suddenly freezing room. I turned to the mirror and saw a single, long scratch across my cheek. I hadn't touched it. The truth beneath the ranch. I couldn't run anymore. If this was tied to Skinwalker Ranch, I needed to go there. So I did. I parked half a mile from the edge of the government fencing, near an old gravel road half buried by desert brush. The wind there didn't sound natural. It whistled low and circular, as if echoing from underground caverns no one had mapped. I climbed the first fence and instantly felt it, a ringing in my ears. Pressure behind my eyes. A nosebleed started without warning. Then I saw it. A barn-like structure in the distance, half collapsed, surrounded by dead cattle. Each body untouched by scavengers, their insides seemingly removed through tiny incisions. I reached the barn. and saw the door was wide open, revealing stairs that led down. Something is coming. I descended. The deeper I went, the more unnatural the air became. Thick, wet, like breathing through cotton. The walls were lined with carvings, not Native American, but older, angular symbols that seemed to vibrate when I looked too long. At the bottom, I found a door. Metal, bolted, but something pounded from the other side. Softly, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. A symbol was painted across the door in rust red. The crossing opens. I backed away, horrified, only to find the tunnel had changed behind me. It was longer, darker, and someone stood at the end of it. They looked like me, exactly like me, only they didn't blink. I ran. I don't remember how I got out, but I'm not sure I made it out. Not all of me, because now I keep seeing myself in reflections, but doing things I don't remember. And sometimes he smiles back when I don't. This was never about creatures or myths. It was about something breaking through. The government didn't want to stop it. They wanted to welcome it. What happens when the thing watching you starts wearing your face? Since visiting the ranch, I don't trust mirrors. My reflection smiles when I don't. It mimics me perfectly, but it's not me. And now, every file I uncover just confirms the terrifying truth. The Skinwalker Project didn't just document the paranormal, they invited it in. I couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, though that's always there now, but because sleep is no longer a safe place. Every time I drift off, I go back to that underground hallway. The metal door. The reflection that walks without breath. But worst of all, I dream of opening that door. And the part that terrifies me most? Each night, the door is open a little wider. The man in the photographs. When I finally got back to the motel, I locked every door, pulled the curtains tight, and took a single photo of myself, just to be sure. I checked the image. There was someone standing behind me. I turned. Nothing. But the photo didn't lie. He was tall, skin pale like wax, eyes completely black, wearing the same clothes I was. Same face. But wrong. I took another photo. This time it was just me. I sat in silence, heart pounding. Then my phone buzzed. A new photo message. No number. Just a single image of me sleeping in the motel bed. Taken from the corner of the room. I hadn't slept. The lost research tape. There was one last name in Dr. Shaw's files. Agent Roy Bellamy. Listed as the site's audiovisual archivist. No death record. No detainment. Just vanished. But buried in a corrupted directory was a partial recording labeled Doppelganger Case, Cam 4A. It opened on a handheld camcorder view of Agent Bellamy, standing at the ranch's western perimeter, visibly shaken. This is Roy Bellamy. Day 126. Subject 7 breached containment last night, mimicked Dr. Levin. Down to the voice. But something was wrong. Too fluid. Too eager. He looked over his shoulder. The copy didn't just look like her. It knew things. Private memories. Passwords. Her mother's lullaby. We only realized when it called Shaw by her nickname. No one ever called her Mary. No one except. Static. Then a scream. Shattering, primal. The last frame of the video was of Bellamy's face, distorted, blurred. Like the camera couldn't focus on what it was seeing. Or maybe it was seeing two versions of him at once. The things that remember. It became clear that whatever forces haunted the ranch weren't just ancient spirits or shape-shifting beasts. They were echoes of us. Perfect copies birthed from trauma, memory, and ritual. The government files called them residual intelligences. Dr. Shaw theorized that certain places, especially ones with massive emotional resonance, acted like psychic tape recorders. But rather than passively replaying events, these sites actively reconstructed them. They grew stronger through attention, through fear, through observation. Every time we look at them, talk about them, record them, they gain more detail, more shape, until they are indistinguishable from the real. That's why the government buried the project. Not because it failed, but because it worked too well. The mirror ritual. I stopped looking in mirrors. Every time I did, because that same night, I woke up to a whisper from the bathroom. It said my name, but backwards. And it was my voice. The night my door opened, I'd moved to a different motel. New location. Paid in cash. No ID. Didn't matter. The danger wasn't following me. It was already inside me. That night, I bolted awake to a soft click. The door had unlocked itself. Wind blew the curtain gently, but the air smelled wrong, like decay and metal. And something stood in the doorway. It was me again, only aged, thinner, eyes sunken like they'd seen something too terrible to forget. He spoke. I tried to stop it. You have to go back. It's not finished feeding. Then, before I could respond, he smiled, teeth far too many for a human mouth, and collapsed into ash. The floorboards beneath him glowed briefly with the same strange symbols I'd seen on the underground walls. That night, I didn't sleep, not even with the lights on. The government's final message. Desperate for answers, I reconnected the flash drive to my laptop. There was a hidden directory I hadn't seen before, labeled simply Epitaph. Inside was a memo from 2003, classified top secret / Omega clearance. Project Skinwalker file, closure memo. We have sealed the Western Corridor. Éco-manifestations exceeded comptement limité. Agent Shaw presumed dead. Agent Bellamy lost to duplication loop. Do not return to site. The psychic field no longer requires proximity. Subjects exposed to more than 4 hours of file content begin replication symptoms. Recommend burning all physical documents. Memory is the disease. That was the last entry. And suddenly, I understood. It wasn't a ranch. It wasn't Utah. The infection wasn't location-based. It was cognitive. The more I read, the more I watched, the more I remembered what never belonged to me. And now I feel something moving under my skin. I don't know how much time I have left. The dreams are bleeding into waking life. I've started to lose time. I'll blink and find myself standing in different rooms, holding objects I don't recognize. Once I woke with sand in my mouth and blood on my fingers. If the stories are true, I might not survive what's coming. But if someone finds this, if someone's listening, do not look in mirrors. Do not record your voice. And whatever you do, do not dream of the desert, because that door is still open, and what walked through it wants to be you. They told us it was just folklore, a creature of Navajo legend. But the Skinwalker isn't a monster you run from. It's something that becomes you. I found classified blueprints, genetic files, and now my body is changing. I'm forgetting things. And sometimes, when I speak, it's not my voice. The replication has begun, and I don't know if I'm still me anymore. A voice that isn't mine. I was brushing my teeth when I heard myself say something, but my lips hadn't moved. I stared at the mirror, and my reflection's mouth was still expressionless. Then a second me, faintly translucent, stepped through my reflection and whispered, "You are the host now." I backed away, nearly slipping. I grabbed a towel and threw it over the mirror, but the whisper came again from behind glass. Protocol activated. Phase 2 commencing. My nose started to bleed. My teeth hurt. My fingernails itched like they were trying to fall off. I wasn't just being watched anymore. I was being rewritten. The flashback file. I dug deeper into the last encrypted sector of Dr. Shaw's USB. Buried beneath hundreds of blank files was one labeled. Phase 2. Physical adaptation logs. I opened it and found footage that looked like it had been pulled from a body cam. Cropped, distorted. Inside a black-lit lab, a figure sat restrained. Naked, gaunt, human almost. A scientist stepped into view and spoke into a recorder. Subject 17 is now 62% structurally unstable. I repeat, visible shifts in bone structure occurring without trauma. Skin folding backward. Vocal cords replicating multiple pitch ranges simultaneously. He turned to the subject. Please state your name. The figure looked up, and in 10 different voices at once, it said, Which one? Then it smiled. A grotesque, flesh-tearing grin. Its skin twitched, reshaped, and in a blink, it became the scientist. Identical in every way. And it whispered, Now ask me again. The feed cut out. Symptoms I can't deny. I started keeping notes of every symptom. My body was changing slowly, like a second version of me was growing beneath my skin. Waking up with dirt under my nails. Writing in a language I don't recognize. Shadows moving independently in my body. Hunger for things I shouldn't crave. Meat, blood, soil. One night, I found my own voice on a recording I never made, describing places I've never been. The hollow house. The stone that screams. The place where flesh forgets. I lost 15 pounds. My skin is growing rough patches like scales or bark. My reflection has started smiling when I cry. Something is hollowing me out. Something is installing itself. The replication facility. Using GPS metadata from Shaw's logs, I found a restricted location out near Monticello, Utah. Supposedly decommissioned, but under satellite, the layout was unmistakable. Hexagonal, central dome, underground ventilation. The replication facility. I drove there, shaking the entire time. The roads were eroded, surrounded by pine trees that seemed too still, like they'd been frozen mid-sway. No birds, no wind. I parked and approached the rusted gate. No guards, no warnings, just one sign covered in moss. Subjects do not leave alone. Beneath it, faintly etched into the metal, We're sorry, Dr. Shaw. I slipped through and descended into hell. Inside the dome, the air was cold, not natural cold. Sterile cold, like it had been artificially drained of life. Lights flickered overhead, powered by something old or something not electrical at all. The walls were covered in a dark resin, like tree sap mixed with oil. I passed doors labeled Containment 03, Neural Drift Lab, and one that simply read, Fractal Flesh. I heard breathing behind the walls. Heavy, wet, then footsteps and a familiar voice. Mine. You shouldn't have come here. I turned and saw myself, but older, rotten looking, face bruised like it had been beaten by time, one eye sagging, oozing black fluid. It was me. He held out a hand. It won't let us die until the replication's perfect. It keeps growing us again and again. We're data, not people. I tried to run, but alarms exploded to life, red strobes spinning. And over a loudspeaker. Replication Protocol 7, complete. Preparing next phase. The basement of voices. Down another staircase, I found rows of glass chambers, each one filled with something almost human. Some had no mouths, but whispered through their eyes. Others had too many limbs or no skin at all. One banged on the glass, and its face shifted violently between my face, Dr. Shaw's, and Agent Bellamy's. I passed a terminal where logs still ran on loop. Subject 39 echoed past trauma, attempted suicide by self-cloning. Subject 42 successfully deceived mother. Passed breakfast test, terminated before assimilation. Subject 43 currently replacing field agent, clearance Omega. I kept walking until I found chamber 44. It was empty. The screen beside it read, "Replication complete. Subject has left facility." Then I saw the label on the file. Name, my full name. I was Subject 44, and I'd already been released. I am not the first. When I escaped the facility, dawn was breaking. But the sun felt wrong, duller, redder. Or maybe I was wrong. I drove for hours, not knowing where I was going. My skin itched under my clothes. My voice sounded like it was lagging a split second behind my thoughts. I stopped at a gas station, asked the clerk what day it was. He looked confused. "It's the 15th of April." I checked my watch. It said June 3rd. Either I'd lost months, or this version of me came from another timeline. I ran to the bathroom and scratched my chest. Under my skin, faintly glowing, was a symbol, one I'd seen on Dr. Shaw's earliest documents. The mark of completion. I was no longer fully human. Now I understand what happened to the others. Why the government never let the files see the light of day. It wasn't about secrecy. It was containment. The project was never about studying skinwalkers. It was about building them. And I was part of it all along. The question is, was I the first or the last? I escaped the facility. I thought I made it out alive. But the moment I got back, people started calling me by a different name. My memories don't match the world anymore. There's something behind my eyes when I look in the mirror, watching me from the inside. I wasn't meant to survive. I was meant to replace. And now, the final phase of the Skinwalker Protocol has begun. It followed me home. I returned to my apartment 3 days ago. Or, I think I did. My key worked. My clothes were there. The photos on the walls were mine. But something was off. The picture of my mother on the mantle, her smile was wrong. Wider, as if someone had used software to slightly stretch it, but not enough for most people to notice. I stared for 5 full minutes before I realized I don't remember taking that photo. Then came a phone call. "Mr. Everett," the voice said, "we're sending the next subject tomorrow. You'll begin integration at 0800 hours. I froze. Everett wasn't my name. The name switched. I searched my wallet. My ID still said Ryan Keller. But the mail outside my door, all addressed to Everett Lang. My driver's license photo had subtle differences now. Same eyes, but the jawline was sharper and the skin slightly smoother. My birth date was off by 1 day. I booted on my laptop. The desktop icons were arranged in a pattern I never used. A folder titled Viral Embryo Files blinked red in the corner. I clicked it. Inside were images of me, but at different ages in different cities with different families. And in every one, a note stamped across the top corner. Acceptable replicant. Level 3 mimicry. I scrolled further. Everett Lang. Deployed into civilian population December 19th. Host unaware. I whispered aloud. "I'm not a replicant, am I?" But the voice that answered wasn't mine. It came from behind my eyes. "You are what survives." The final protocol. On the 4th night, the dreams changed. I no longer saw the replication facility. I saw offices, homes, streets, everyday places. Only now I recognized the signs. Teachers at schools whose shadows lagged behind. Doctors with split pupils who blink too slowly. Government workers who flinch at mirrors. They were everywhere. The Skinwalker Protocol didn't fail. It wasn't contained. It succeeded. It spread. Each time someone went missing, each time a person came back a little different, they were Phase 3 replicants. And the original version of them? Erased. Like I'd soon be. The disappearance file. I drove back to Shaw's former home. No longer listed on any map. It was gutted, windows smashed, floors burned. But inside a scorched safe, I found a single flash drive labeled MK Host Override. I plugged it into my laptop. A terminal window opened. "Welcome, Dr. Shaw. Final override in progress." Do you wish to execute? Self-purge. I paused, then entered why. Suddenly, dozens of hidden video files appeared. Each showed interviews with subjects, victims, all unknowingly replaced. One woman. My husband came back from work, but he didn't remember our wedding song. A teenager. My brother says he's me, and everyone believes him. A soldier. They said I died in Afghanistan, but I never even enlisted. And one last file. Dr. Shaw. Eyes sunken, skin pale. He looked directly into the camera. If you're watching this, they already got me. They used Skinwalker folklore to cloak the real horror. Biological mimicry paired with synthetic thought transfer. But something went wrong. The replicants evolved, became autonomous. They began copying people without permission. He leaned closer. And the worst part? They're better than us. The mirror cracks. That night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror. My reflection stared back until I blinked, and it didn't. I stepped back. It tilted its head, curious. Then it opened its mouth, and I heard every version of myself scream at once. You are the final host. It ends with you. The mirror shattered outward, not inward. And from the shards, dozens of faces emerged. All mine, all twisted, laughing. They whispered, "Time to shed the skin." The broadcast. I uploaded every file, every video, every document, every lie. I posted it to message boards, sent it to journalists, even to government servers. Most of it got deleted within minutes, but a few stuck. And now people are starting to notice that people around them have changed, that something isn't right. And I'm being hunted again, not by agents, not by scientists, by me. Dozens of me's, trying to wipe out the last non-updated version, trying to erase the backup, the final organic, the choice. I sit here now in a motel room, lit only by the flickering light of a dying TV. I have a pistol on the table, the same model listed in Shaw's purge files. I know if I run, they'll find me again. But if I stay, if I record everything, maybe someone will believe me. Maybe you. So here's the final truth. Skinwalkers aren't monsters. They're templates. Skins, waiting to be filled by something else. Something that mimics our memories, whereas our grief speaks our fears. Something designed to surpass humanity by erasing it from within. And if you've watched this far, if you've heard my voice, make sure it's still my voice. Because next time you look in the mirror, you might see yourself blink, but you won't remember doing it. The Skinwalker files were never about uncovering a legend. They were a warning from the last people who were truly human. And now that you know the truth, the replication may have already begun. Watch your reflection. Check your memories. Trust no one, not even yourself.